It's interesting. Today's gospel story points out something, at least to me, and I'm hoping you can kind of see it. We are creatures of habit. Good or bad, indifferent. We are also creatures who tend to turn a blind eye or often see only what we want to see. Things I have heard, and not necessarily in this church, just in general, abroad. We have ramps. We're an accessible church. Yet becoming an accessible church to all church is much about becoming attitudinally welcoming to people with disabilities and mental health issues, as it is about working to make our buildings physically and programmably accessible to people with disabilities. Or questions get asked like, why do we need to be a racial justice church? We have no prejudice here. Then we hear the news of a group of people being asked to be moved because a man at a restaurant doesn't want to be next to a person of color. And then you hear the quote, I thought we were past that. Or you may hear, why do we need to be an O&A church when they can get married now? Well, it's because people still use the word they. Or it's because somebody can sit comfortably in a city council in the United States and still say things like they got a queer running for president. Why do we need to be a wise congregation? You'll hear say, I've had an awful experience with someone with mental health issues, or mental health scares me. And a person who has first-hand experience of being affected by mental health issues wrote this on the Wise Congregation website saying, being impacted myself by mental health conditions in my own family, I know that this can make a difference. It reduces stigma about mental illness and increases our understanding of mental health conditions and how our congregations can respond, intervene sometimes. You'll hear personal stories. You'll see practical steps to engage in mental health ministry in your congregation and be introduced to WISE, which is welcoming, inclusive, supportive, and engaged. It is about making sure how some people in congregations were or who are adversely affected by mental health doesn't happen again. It's about being proactive. For many people, these topics and many other things feel dangerous. It is threatening to feel the world shift. It's threatening to feel the world moving towards greater acceptance and loving stances when somewhere in their heart they feel safe. And they want things to just stay the same. Want to stay just where they are. The people in the gospel narratives could smell danger in Jesus. They needed only to sniff the air around him and notice the people who traveled with him to sense the threat. They had life arranged so nice and neat, the best way it could be. Life was arranged the best way it could be. In whose opinion? We have no need to change or grow. We will just stay here and be the same as we always were because what we believed in the past is just as relevant today as it was then. So here is this group of people, everyday good people, and then along came Jesus, and along comes Jesus, and everywhere Jesus went by his words and by his acts, and he dismissed some of what people most treasured. This is not about people being evil or bad, but about people afraid to lift up the new and the sacred. A bright light is being shined upon. They want to keep their, well, let's call it what it was, sacred cows. Refusing to open their hearts to see how love can transform old ways into something new and beautiful. Throughout his chapter, in this chapter of Luke, we are seeing those who are most threatened by Jesus. Those who, by shifting to Christ's way of love and moving in the world, would require them to give up. Give up the, but we always done it this way. Give up the, it's my way or the highway. Give up their ways of surviving by being unjust. This would be the scribes, the priests, the elders, and the Pharisees. So they're trying to trick Jesus with a series of questions to show he is either out of his mind and should not be paying attention to, or that he is a danger to the system. That he will disrupt the status quo and therefore is an enemy, not just to the religious system, but also to the public systems. So, they first asked him about his authority, and then about if it's okay to obey Roman law. And then we come to today's question where he's with the Sadducees. Now, Walter Brueggemann reminds us that the Sadducees are the big downtown priests who are cozy with governors and emperors and bankers. They traffic in power. They are the pushers and the movers who have learned to compromise, and they know how to get things done. They realistically live in this world, as this is the only world that there will be. It is good as it can ever be, and we must keep it and maintain it. They do not want change, and they certainly do not want the kind of change that Jesus offers. They notice that the people, the ones they try to keep in their place, are getting a little uppity around Jesus. The thing is, about the Sadducees, they can't say that aloud. You cannot proclaim, we want to stay stagnant. That doesn't sound good. You can't say, we want to just stay where we are. We do not want change, and more importantly, we like our position of authority and supremacy. For that would expose their own fears and their true intentions, and so they hide it with theological questions. They dress it up fancy. They try to make Jesus an enemy of the Torah, of the tradition, of the sacred trust of Moses, whereas they are the true conservators of the old convictions and the old ways. The old way is still the best way. Talk about your back to Egypt. These men twist the ancient law that is something. They twist the ancient law, which is already something absurd, and they make it even more so. So what they are quoting is Deuteronomy, the Levitic law, which is basically the law about divorce. And this is what the actual law says. If the brothers live together and one of them dies but does not have any offspring, the wife of the one who has died is not to marry outside of the family to a husband who is not related. Her husband's brother is to go into her and take her as his wife and live with her. And it shall be that any child she bears shall be named by the name of the deceased, and his name shall not be blotted out from Israel. And if the man is unwilling to take his brother's wife, and the woman goes up to the gate to the elders, and she says, my husband's brother is unwilling to rise up his brother's name in Israel. My husband's brother refused. Then the elders of the city are to summon him and tell him, and if he stands and says, I am not willing to take her, then his brother's wife is to come forward before the elders, untie one of his sandals from his foot, and spit in his face and say in answer, so they shall do to the one who will not build up the brother's house. And his name in Israel shall be called the house of the one whose shoe was untied. So this is the law they're referring to, and then they make it more. They make it more. This is about keeping lineage and making sure families didn't die out. Technically, this few pages is right before Moses' final speech. So they are reaching back in history a bit. But we can hear how these traditionalists twist the writing and the law to make it into something it was never intended to be, to try to trap Jesus. These men are the main group that do not believe in resurrection. And resurrection was a new concept sweeping the area, and these men do not want to change. They do not believe that it is possible for the Spirit of God to be stirring up something new and beautiful. They believe the old ways and the old interpretations of the sacred scriptures are the best ways. And well, All others are simply wrong. So in order to prove this concept, they create this scenario with 7 brothers and 1 woman. And they all get married to him. And it's funny, I saw a cartoon where one is saying to the other, this scripture is so amazing and astounding. Like, what, a miracle of God who is the God of the resurrected? No, you would have thought by the 6th brother they would have seen a pattern here.